free here at Made by Mummy Homestead. It's very early on Christmas Eve and all the kids are still asleep. So I thought I would take this opportunity to come out and have a chat about why I think quail are the most awesome little pets, and I think everyone should have them. So I'm going to give you my 9 reasons why, if Mr. Hamburg lets me talk. So here we go. My number 1 reason is that they're like chickens, but they're sort of a soft entry into poultry. Even if you live in a suburban area or even in just a small apartment and you're thinking about getting chickens, but it's a pretty big commitment, and you don't really want to make that leap yet, maybe start with quail. They're still poultry, oh boys, shush! They still give you meat and eggs, but well, they're not like that. They're not noisy. My second reason is they're cheap. I bought my first dozen quail eggs to incubate, my fertile eggs, on a whim on the buy, swap and sell for like $4. Out of that I had a bit of a malfunction with my incubator and I only ended up getting 2 quail, but for $2 each they've been pretty good little quail. We get an egg every day. I got a male and a female, and we get an egg every day, and so far they've given me 4 babies and they've got another 10 in the incubator, and they're all looking good. So I was pretty happy with that purchase. My second 2 dozen cost me about $15, which is really nothing. They're also really cheap to feed. They live on game bird starter, which is pretty high protein, but they don't eat a whole lot of it. I think one 20 kilo bag costs me about $25, and it lasts ages, depending on the amount of birds. When I only had the 2, I barely made a dent in it. Now I've got about 20 odd, and they've gone through 1.5 bags, but I was feeding that to my chicken babies for a little bit as well. My third reason is that they are clean, quite clean. They're not as smelly as chickens. They're obviously smaller and they're easier to keep clean and in a nice little area. They're not, because they don't free range, they're not all over the place. They're not pooing everywhere all over your deck and all by your back door. My number 4 reason is that they take up way less space than chickens. Get out of my coffee, you. You can keep 1 bird per square foot in the American terms, so that works out about 10 birds per square metre, which is like a lot of birds. I don't keep them packed in that tight, but you can if you want to. This is one of the boys that's making all the noise. Being naughty. They don't take up very much space. I've got some of mine in a guinea pig cage. Soon I'll be separating them out into breeding quartets, but at the moment I'll show you my cages when we're done with this talk. At the moment they're just in like a rabbit or a guinea pig cage, and they're quite happy in there. My number 5 reason is that they're really quiet. Unlike my boys that you've been hearing through this video, my chicken boys, they don't crow. Well, they do crow, but it's a very small little like bird call. It won't annoy your neighbours. And often the councils don't have restrictions on the numbers of birds you can have in terms of quail, whereas they usually do for chickens. In my council, you're only allowed to have 10 chickens, and you're not supposed to have roosters. I have some roosters at the moment because they're from my last hatch, but this week they're going to their new homes, and we're going to a poultry auction this morning to sell one of them. So we've got homes lined up for them, and I've spoken to my neighbours. But yeah, usually your councils will have restrictions in a small area, in a town area, but you don't get that with quails. They don't usually have specific restrictions. My number 6 reason is that, like chickens, they give eggs and meat. So every day I get an egg off my hens, and they're quite nice little eggs. I'll show you some in a minute. My girls eat them for breakfast. You can make pickled quail eggs. You can do heaps with them. You can use them just like chicken eggs. You just have to use 3 times as many. They're beautiful little eggs. The meat is quite easy to process. If you're interested in that, there's heaps of videos on YouTube on how to do it. It's not difficult. You can just do it with a pair of sharp scissors. And my number 7 reason is that they are great pets. My kids love them. They come out and play with them every day. They're just like having a guinea pig, but just something that gives you back. My kids just really enjoy playing with them. Which takes me to my number 8 point, is that they're small and they're easy to handle. Unlike chickens, they can't free range, so you need to keep them contained, because the reason you can free range chickens is that at night they will always, usually go back to their roosting spot. They'll go back to where they live to sleep. Quail don't have that instinct. They'll just sleep out in the open. So you can't let them run around, and they also fly pretty well. So you need to keep them in a really enclosed cage, otherwise you'll lose them. Keeping them in a cage means they're easy to find. You're not chasing them around the backyard all day trying to catch them. You right there, mister? They're easy for the kids to pick up and handle, and if you play with them like guinea pigs or rabbits, if you play with them every day, they really get used to it. Our original 2 are really easy to handle. The younger ones aren't so much, because we haven't played with them as much. But our original 2 are so used to getting picked up that it's just their lives. My number 9 reason is that they're really hardy. They're easy to breed. Out of my original dozen eggs, I had an incubator malfunction and I only got 2, but none in that same batch with that same malfunction. None of my chicken eggs hatched, but I managed to get 2 quail out, which is pretty amazing that they lived through that. And then out of my second batch, I put in 2 dozen in a new incubator, and I got, out of that 2 dozen, I got 22 hatch, which is a pretty awesome hatch rate. And I bought those 2 dozen, and I had 4 of my own eggs from my own quail, and all 4 of those hatched, which is pretty brilliant. So we ended up with 26 little babies. We had 2 with splay legs, which was my fault, and they didn't end up making it. And then one got eaten by one of the cats while Phoenix was cleaning the brooder, which was a bit of a disaster. I wasn't home at the time. So we ended up with 23 live quail out of a batch of 28 eggs, which they're now 3.5, nearly 4 weeks old. That's a pretty awesome live rate. They don't get as many parasites as chickens. We still worm them with a poultry wormer the same as the chickens, but it's really not as bad. They don't pick up as much as chickens do. and it's really easy to keep them alive. Yeah, so that's my 9 reasons why I think quails make the most awesome pets. Whether you live on a farm or in a hobby farm or even a backyard, you can even have them on your deck in a raised rabbit cage. There's plenty of reasons why you should have quail. They make awesome pets. So I'll just show you a bit of my setup. Sorry, the sun's not cooperating today, so it's a bit hard to see, but in the bottom here I've got my little 3-week-olds, and these guys have just come out here in the last week and are now living outside. So this is an old rabbit cage that I've modified. I just had to put aviary wire on the outside because these bars were just slightly too big and my cats could reach their paws through. They really like the taste of quail, so we had to change that, and this is fully secure, it's fully closed in. There's some of my little English game birds up here. I only just got these the other day. They've decided that this is their spot to nest. They're only little bantams, they're so cute. So that's where my little babies are at the moment until they go out into breeding pens. In this is a cage I knocked up out of recycled, flat pack, one of those flat pack chicken houses. We just knocked together a cube out of that, so it's got wire on the base as well as all the sides, and this is where my original 2 live. So in here they've got some plants, they've got a bit of shade, they've got a hutch. Go away, Ellie. And every time I open it they like to come out and peck the grass right outside. Go on, in you go. So this is Coffee and Toffee, and they are much loved. So she's got a bunch of eggs in here which I'm trying to leave because I am attempting to make her go broody. So these are the little eggs, and they are so precious. Sorry about the light, guys. I'm not having luck with it today. Yeah, so that's our little quail cage. But soon enough, they will be moving. Once we move some chooks around, they'll moving into one of those. This is an old rabbit cage I got off the buy, stop and sell, and I'll separate that out, and that can be another cage. So we can end up with quite a few different breeding quartets. So that's my plans. So sorry about the poor lighting, but thank you for watching my little video today. If you got any questions or comments about quail, or any suggestions on videos you want me to do in the future, just leave a comment down below, and I'll try to get back to you. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.